Ahoy, me hearties! Are you tired? Because it's time for a rest tutorial. Oh god, I'm mad. This is the second time I've had to record this video because the first time the microphone was not recording. I've been sat talking to myself for ages. Oh well, here we go. So, let's create a REST API with Node.js. We're going to create this, the bare bones, most simple one we can possibly create. It's going to be very fun. So let's get started. Okay, the very first thing you're going to have to do, if you haven't done already, is you're going to have to say brew install npm. If that doesn't work for you because you're not on a Mac or you haven't installed brew on a Mac, then just Google install npm and install npm. It's very, very simple. Once we've got all that sorted, we're going to initialize the node project by typing in npm init. Okay, so this is going to go through what we need to do to create the project. So we're going to give it a package name. So let's say Node Rest Tutorial. Wowzers trousers. There are a few restrictions on what you can name a project. You can't a package. You cannot, for example, put in capital letters, which is mildly annoying. But here we go. Yeah, we'll call it version 1. Naturally, let's call it version 0.0.01. That should let us do that. Yes. Yep. A REST API. Entry point, no, we're not doing index.js, we're going to do server.js because I don't trust people who do index.js. It makes absolutely no sense. Totally avoid them people. Okay, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need keywords, forget about it, forget about the author, let's forget about that. And then we're going to type in yes. That looks all good. What we've got here, the output, is the JSON object that's going to go into the package.json file and is essentially metadata about the project that we've just specified. So, is that okay? Yes. Check the project. What do we have? We have that package.json file. So, if I was to do this, for example. Oh, I can't type. I did it right the first time. Dearie dear. We see exactly the output that we've just seen. Bit of metadata about the project. Very useful. Very fun. That's all we need to know about that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is look at the structure. So, we have a source file. Folder, and we're going to just go in there. I've already created this because I have a plan. So, source folder, all it has in there at the moment is a folder called public. That's where we're going to have some static files if you require static files. We'll get into what a static folder is in the context of Node.js in a minute. We're going to need two files. We're going to need one called roots.js. And we are going to need one called server.js. Oh, before I forget, to make your lives much easier, you should do something. You should install something called NodeMon. npm i-g for global, so it installs across the whole system as opposed to just a package. And then just type in NodeMon. What that does is it enables you to start the application and have NodeMon listen for changes and automatically restart the application when there are changes. I will show you what that means and what the alternative is in a moment when we actually have gotten around to writing some files. It makes your development easier. It is the essential point if you don't want to listen to the rest of it. One of the things you may notice is we haven't installed any dependencies yet, and that's because we're going to write them in the file and then we're just going to type npm i and it will just install all of them in one go and we'll see what happens to them. So let's get started on the server. We are going to start with the dependencies. So declare the dependency, use const because we're not going to reassign them. So const path is equal to require and then just quotes path const express, very useful dependency for creating anything with Node.js. Then we're also going to say const roots and we're going to say require. This one's going to be different. We're going to say ./roots. We'll see why that one's different in a moment. And then we're going to create an app by instantiating Express. Then we're going to do some middlewares. We don't really need to do middlewares for this particular tutorial. That's wrong. It needs to be a standard array. We are only doing this just to sort of show you what middlewares are and how you can use them, because you can basically do this with lots of things and basically declare a load of things in one go. So we're going to say path.join __ dir name. Then we're going to say public, that static folder we saw earlier. And that should be okay. Then we'll say app use, and we do middlewares. There we go. And then we say app use, and we're going to say / for just the root of the API, and we're going to say when that happens, use the roots module that we haven't created yet. Well, let's create some errors now, because we could create these errors in the roots file, but I think we might as well put them in the server. Reason being is they are sort of server errors, but we just want to sort of I want to show you what happens and how you can sort of do your standard 404 errors and your 500 errors. So 404 is file not found, and 500 is bad request, I think. So if we say res status 404, and we're going to send a response, and we're going to be a little bit cheeky. We're going to say, do you need a map? Do you need a map? You're lost. Yes, we're going to be mocking the users of our application. Then we can also do a 500 error. It's going to be ever so slightly different because we're going to put in the error in case we want to see what's going off there. So we can put error, put in the reg, put in the response. So that's request and response. Then next. We're not actually going to use next here, but oh well. We're going to then say console.error. I'm going to say error.stack. So we're going to print the stack trace to the error, to the terminal, sorry. Print the stack trace to an error. Ironically, it was an error. Oh, I'm mental. Right. So it's going to print to the terminal when there are issues. And we're also going to say res status. So we're going to pass 500 error in this case. And we're going to say, well done. You've only gone and broke it. So there we go. Then we need to say what port we're going to listen on. So I'm going to say 3000 because I hear they live underwater on that port. And then do a little lambda. Say console.log. We don't actually need to do a console.log here. Because all we're doing here is this is just for our benefit. When we run the app, we go, what port did I use for this again? I can't remember. I can't be bothered to open the file. So we're going to say this. Localhost 3000. Now we can be clever about this, and we can do things like we can set it so that depending on how we run the application, it runs in either production mode or development mode, and the port changes depending on that. So you might want to, for example, if you were running it in production, you probably would have port 80, and you wouldn't have this nonsense. You would just say it's running on localhost, or it would actually be running on a server that has a URL. We're going to keep it as 3000 because that's why we like to do things here. No particular reason to pick that. So that's our server started, and if we quickly do this, we say node server. Oh, I can't find the module express. Oh, why can't it find the module express? Well, we haven't actually installed anything yet. So if we type in npm I, press enter, it's going to do some stuff. Oh, it's installing things. Look at this. Oh, right. I think we may have done this backwards. No, this is fine. Do this. There we go. We have package.lock. I don't think it's actually installed things correctly. This has gone backwards. This is supposed to have done this. We haven't saved the file. We don't need to save that file. So I may have been wrong. You can't do what I thought you can do. And that is that you just type in all your dependencies here and then install them. Instead, we're going to have to manually install them like Neanderthals. So npm I. I still think we can do this. It won't work. Should be able to just do that. I know what the problem is. The reason I thought you could do this is because in the package lock file, so I don't think I showed you this. We need to go here. In the package lock file, so if I say package, in here we have a whole load, normally we'd have a whole load of dependencies. So if you would download this from GitHub, for example, and it had all the dependencies in, you could just type in npm I and it would install all your dependencies. I had completely forgotten, like an absolute moron, that obviously if we haven't set the dependencies in the beginning, we can't just install the dependencies. It doesn't recognize these as dependencies. I am a buffoon. Okay, let's install the dependencies. npm I path, npm I express, and one more npm I router, not roots. There we go, and that should be all good. Let's quickly cd to the source folder, and we will say node server. Brilliant, it can't find the module roots. Why can't it find that? Well, because this one isn't an external dependency. This is the dependency we're going to create in this roots file here. And one of the things you'll notice here is, let's say I create a change like I do, and I save it. Nothing happens in this terminal. And that's the reason for that is because we're using Node to run the app and not NodeMon, as I mentioned earlier. And we're also not running the app anyway, but just for illustrative purposes. Oh, it won't run because it crashes it. But as an example, let me just do this. Let me say NodeMon server.js. Oh, it's kicking off. However, let me really quickly rectify the problem. See that? I just saved the file. It reloaded, although there's still a problem. It reloaded it, so we don't have to reload it ourselves. We don't have to worry about that anymore. There's no more worries. Okay, so in the roots file, let's import Express, because we need this, because in this file we are going to actually use Express to get the router module. So it's a router is require, not require. We're going to say instantiate Express, the router module there. There we go. Okay, then the next thing we need to do, because I always forget to do this, is I'm going to do module exports equal to router. Basically, what that's going to do is going to export everything related to this thing, and you'll see why, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing things like router.get, and then that will export all the gets that we put in this file. So you'll notice now, Node's happy, it's all working. If we go to our Google Chrome, there we go. Do you need a map? You're lost. There we go. So it's working. We've got an error. We've got an error already. Why have we got an error? Well, because we actually haven't defined any routes yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Router.get. Then we're going to put in /. That's going to be for the root of the project. What we're doing here is we're passing a function with a lambda, saying here's the request, here's the response, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to say res.send, and we're going to say bloody Nora, you made it. There we go. Refresh. There we go, it works. Wow, it's working. Now let's also try and break it. So we've got the we haven't seen the 500 error yet. So let's say hi, do you need a map? You're lost. Okay, that's fine. That hasn't broken it. How can we break it? Oh, I know how we can break it. We'll do it this way. So we've got the text. We've got to return text. Let's do an image. So I have an image of a Dave. We're going to do this. We're going to say rec res, and then we're going to say we need to also, I just remembered, we need to add the path to here. So we need to say path, and we say require path. We are going to do this. We're going to say res send file, capital F, because they have noticed appreciated send file like that, although it will tell you if you make that error. We're then going to do what we did earlier with the static file. We're going to say path.join __ the name. Then we're going to say public Dave.jpg. Okay. For the moment, let's just break it though. Let's just take the G off there so we know that we can see that 500 error. Oh, we can't see the 500 error because I'm on the right route. Well done, you've only gone and broke it. Okay, we've got the 500 error. Brilliant. Put the G back on, and I reckon this will work. And oh, Christ on a bike! It's the wrong image. It's Christ on a bike, not Dave. Oh well. Okay, so we now know it actually returns the right stuff. One of the other things I would like to mention before I forget is we created this static folder, which was sort of pointless because when we referenced Dave, the image of Dave, which turned out to actually be Christ on a bike, we referenced the public folder, which we shouldn't have had to do because we've defined it here. But one of the reasons we set a static folder, and the reason I want to show this, is if you were creating a REST API and you had, say, a CSS file, you would want that to be in the static file so that you can load it and all the other files can reference it. So, for example, if I was to do this, if I was to put .jpg at the end of the Dave folder, all right, it should just load the same image and not create an error. If, for example, I now take out these 2 lines of code, save it, and refresh this, it's going to kick off that there's something wrong because we're not now using this folder as a static location. Very useful when it comes to doing things, like I say, like where you need to have CSS, you need to have your index files, for example. You might need to have JavaScript files for the front end, but that's just a basic thing at the moment. What we're going to be doing in the next video that follows on from this, we are going to be connecting all this nonsense up to a database. We'll be doing some GET requests to the database. We'll be doing some POST requests to the database. If we're feeling funny, we might even do a PUT request to the database, and maybe we'll do some deletes as well. All that to come in the next episode of... This doesn't have a title. I have really gone wrong here. Oh well... If you have any comments, questions, anything, put them in the doobly-doo below and I'll try and answer them as fast as possible. For now, all that remains to say is konnichiwa, goodbye, arrivederci. I don't think konnichiwa is the right word. Oh well, ta-ta.